to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. Remember, we are on every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 to 9, where we discuss something that is relevant in sport in Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight we're going to be talking cricket, but before I introduce my guest to you all, I want to say, this week has been a kind of tragic week for football, because remember we lost young Noah, the guy who from Shiva Boys, who was shot earlier this week. And then just a couple of days after was a young under-15 player from the Point Fonte civic team, Zion Rennie. He died of a stroke. And only this morning, again, where we have to send condolences to the family of Lloyd Samuel. Lloyd Samuel was a member of the Trinidad and Tobago football team, and also he also played for Aston Villa and Wanderers. Well, news coming to hand is that after dropping his children to school in England this morning, he was coming back and he died in a car crash. The car burst in flames, and that was it. So, terrible week for football, the sport of football, but, life goes on. Quickly, this Saturday at the St. Anthony's ground in Westmoreland at 4 p.m. is a historic day for Trinidad and Tobago rugby football. The Rugby Americas North, they'll be hosting, Trinidad and Tobago will be hosting Bermuda, and we are asking all the supporters of rugby, please go out and support the Trinidad and Tobago team. Wear red and support your team. And on the 26th of May, starting at 10:30 a.m. at Marak Recreation Ground, Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee presents their Sports Talent and Extravaganza Day. It's for all sports, but basically they'll be looking at rugby. Please go out and support. There are a lot of scouts will be there to looking at the various talent. And we all know very well that in rural communities, that is where you find the best sportsmen and women. As I said earlier, today we're going to be talking cricket, and I have the pleasure of former Trinidad and Tobago and West Indies fast bowler Anthony Gray. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Welcome to ACTN.
Yeah, good evening to you and good evening to your viewers.
Anthony, I want to start with getting into in depth who Anthony Gray was, and for the sole purpose of, as I was telling somebody recently, our young population, we go into Manny Ramjan Stadium, we go into Arthur Boland, we go into Larry Gomes, we go into Hazy Crawford, but we know nothing about our past heroes. Right? So nobody knows who the barefoot runner Manny Ramjan was. And that's how our history dies. So I would like people to get to know Tony Gray. Who is Tony Gray? How you started in the sport of cricket, and what has cricket given back to you?
Well, I started at the age of playing, 13, playing competitive cricket. In Arangwes, Savannah, at the Coles level. The Coles level is under 21. And I progressed from there. I went on to play for the Trinidad and Tobago team under 19 at the age of about 18 years old, against a Torin schoolboy team, an Indian Torin schoolboy team. And that was in 1983. I subsequently went on to play for the West Indies team in Trinidad and Tobago in 1984, and then the West Indies team in 1985, and also during that period, 1985, I played for Surrey Cricket Club in England.
Yeah, in Division 1985 to 2009 or something like that.
Yes.
Right. That's when you retired?
No, I retired. When I retired, boy, I retired probably in 2010. All right. But the thing about it is that playing for Surrey, before playing for West Indies team. So I wasn't really surprised of making a West Indies team, because I knew, if I put in the hard work, which I did, I would subsequently make the West Indies team. But in addition to that, I played football. I was the goalkeeper at St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive.
I basketball.
Well, I played everything, but football competitively.
St. Anthony's?
No, St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first year the school was called a Green Machine, I was the goalkeeper. Played an intercal final in 79.
Okay.
And
but that's news to me.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
We lost 2-1 to Fatima at the Queen's Park Oval. Was nervous. And then in 1980, we made the final again, but there was a problem with tutor. all right, and they called off the final. So that pained me a lot because they said in 79 I caused the goal. Ball rolled through my leg in front of 18,000 people. But it had a good effect on me because it gave me the inner qualities of strength. Because I was criticized badly, I had to go on to bigger things and having to deal with adversity later on.
Was that the reason you left football and started cricket?
No, not really. You know, it was both sports I played at a good enough level, and I had to evaluate things at about 18 years old, 19 years old, about my future, which one to choose, because I was a very good goalkeeper too. Some people might say that, but I was a very good goalkeeper, and also I was a very good cricketer. So I had to evaluate things, and at that point in time, cricket seemed like the better option. And you know, I was performing with the Trinidad and Tobago senior team, and you know, all the representative games that the West Indies Cricket Board had at the time, I was on those teams, about 3 of them, and performed well against New Zealand. That's how I got a contract to go to Surrey.
Okay, okay. When you first made the senior team, how was that? How that came about, and what was, you can remember your first time with the national colours?
Yeah, well, I played trials, and at that point in time, there were not a lot of fast bowlers. I was a young fast bowler, not really quick. I played in 1984. The first game was in Barbados. I think that we carried 2 fast bowlers, Kelvin Williams, who is now national senior coach, and myself. And they picked one for that game. And it was an experience that was amazing because Milton Small took 7 wickets against us. And he bowled very, very fast and on a green top. And I got 2 wickets. I performed okay, but nothing like Milton Small. So it impacted me mentally, and I wanted to bowl as fast as that, as hostile as that, because he really bowled hostile. And that was the experience. I couldn't sleep the night before because I always knew that I was going to play for the senior team, always knew that I wanted to play for the West Indies team, and that was a stepping stone forward.
And how, after that first encounter, how did you progress afterwards?
Well,
was a permanent fixture on it?
Well, yeah, but that during that season, I played 3 games, got injured with a knee injury, and I remember my father took me to the doctor. I won't call his name, but he said that I would never play for the West Indies team because the injury was so bad, and I always had knee problems, or one knee problem. You know, when I played I also represented the school's touring team. I was football. I was going to Suriname. And I got injured, cartilage problems. So the doctor then told me, listen, I would not play for the West Indies team, but I said, I would pray, I would train hard, and I will play for the West Indies team. In fact, it was amazing that he said I would not play for the West Indies team, not like Michael Holding. And Michael Holding was my idol.
Yeah, I was about to ask you.
Michael Holding was my idol because of his fluency, of his run-up, his action, and the pace that he generated. And that captivated me when I went as a boy at the Queen's Park Oval to watch West Indies play. I think it was India at the time.
Now, you got called up for the West Indies team. How did that come about?
Well, I was playing for Surrey in England at the time. And obviously, I performed well during the regional tournament in 1985. I got 23 wickets and impressed everybody. I went to Jamaica and got 10 wickets in a game. That was the first game. And that was the first time in a long time we beat Jamaica at Sabina Park. And, you know, I got a lot of media attention and that sort of thing. And also I went to Surrey and got the Player of the Year, my county cap first year. And that's something that is not normal, or it's rare, because you had to perform well, and the members of the club, they decide.
Had to vote. Yeah,
that's right. They decide on who got Player of the Year, and I got Player of the Year in my first year. I was taken over from Sylvester Clark, who had a knee injury and a knee operation. So that was quite pleasing for me.
Now, getting into the West Indies team at that point in time, you had a lot of quick men. How did you, barge your way into that into that mix? Because I mean, who are some of the guys you had to battle with for place?
Well, at that point in time, you had Courtney Walsh, you had Michael Holden, that was amazing. Malcolm Marshall, Patrick Patterson, Joel Garner. The first time I played, those guys were wrong. Joel Garner. You had the Benjamins, Winston Benjamin, and well, Kenneth Benjamin wasn't there at the time, but Winston Benjamin. So those were some of the guys. Curtly Ambrose wasn't there as yet. And I played, first of all, for the West Indies team in the Emirates, Sharjah and Dubai. And that was amazing because, you know, the meeting before the first game against Pakistan in a one-day series, you know, we were in a room together, you know, and Viv Richards was there. He was captain. Clive Lloyd, the year before, retired. And, you know, it was amazing because these guys I saw when I was a youngster, growing up, watching them.
And you're in the same room with them now.
Right, and I'm in the same room with them. Kind of nervous because they were discussing who should open the bowling tomorrow.
Okay. At that point in time, you knew you wanted to start in 11 or?
No, not yet. No,
okay,
not yet.
Okay.
So, and all of a sudden they said, well, Joel Garner said, well, I think the youngsters should open the bowling. This guy is 6'10" and a half. This guy is intimidating because of his physicality. And he's saying that I should open the bowling tomorrow. And Viv Richards, then the master blaster and captain of the West Indies team, said, yes, I think so. So I couldn't sleep the night. But I did open the bowling and bowl very, very well.
You remember what was your wickets?
I think I got 3 wickets in the first game, right? But I was always very consistent.
And the backup bowlers with you? Who?
Well, Courtney Walsh, he also performed well. Courtney Walsh, yeah. Joel Garner and Michael Holden play. And Malcolm Marshall was there too. So a quartet, very, very fast guys, but different types of fast bowlers.
That's when we had fast bowlers who could have bat too, so you didn't mind having a long tail, as you know.
Well, I mean, not only fast bowlers who could have batted too, but the fact is that a lot of the opposition didn't score a lot of runs against us.
Okay. That's true. That's true. So yeah. So you could have packed your tail with a lot of bowlers. But these men who you came up against, I mean, they were some of the greatest, you know, in fast bowling. What, after coming out of the sport and looking back, what did you think that playing against these guys brought to you or brought to your game?
Well, you got to understand, and I went into a state of introspection. What made the West Indies team when everybody thought I was going to gravitate towards football. In fact, in St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive, they didn't know that I was playing cricket, club cricket, because the deceased Kenny Thomas, who was an excellent football coach, a very you know, forthright individual, he didn't want to play cricket because 5 years before my involvement in St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive, there was an issue, and he was angry with the authorities and didn't play cricket for 5 years.
Okay.
So when I came there, it was just primarily football I played. And because I had that intrinsic value of never say die, an unremitting quality that Kenny Thomas and my father, you know, instilled in me at the time, I knew I was going to play for the West Indies team, right? And when I did, these qualities expanded because when you played for the West Indies team during that time, it was a no-nonsense type of attitude, never say die attitude, and no matter what the situation, you can adjust to the situation. That's what the likes of Sir Vivian Richards, Joel Garner, Michael Holden instill in the younger players. And remember when I went on to the West Indies team, at that point in time, there was a generational change, not just in the West Indies team, but society itself.
Yes, yeah.
And, you know, you had to adjust mentally to what was going on from the past guys, like Michael Holden and these guys.
Yeah. If I'm to ask you, I mean, yes, you looked at Michael Holden and he was the one, but what kept you motivated? Because sometimes you're in a sport and you can be motivated for a period of time, but what kept you? Because you had to be performing constantly on a regular basis in order to stake your claim amongst the Ghanas and the Walsh and the Holden and these guys. Did it occur to you that you had to train him harder, or what motivated you to make sure that Tony Gray, stays on this team?
That was an excellent question, because of the fact that at that point in time, cricket was highly competitive. Mm-hmm. There was a legacy in place. There was intrinsic values that cricketers had. And my thing was being patriotic. Love my country. I wanted to prove everybody wrong because...
Especially the doctor.
Right, that's right. Mm-hmm. 34 years before my involvement at the West Indies team level, there were no fast bowlers. Bernard Julian was there at a time, but he was not a fast bowler.
He was a medium
fast bowler, but an all-rounder. So I wanted to say, listen, Trinidad and Tobago can produce fast bowlers too. 34 years, Prior Jones and Lance Peer, late Prior Jones and Lance Peer. So my motivational factor, the main one, was to stay on the West Indies team because I wanted to represent my country, Trinidad and Tobago, and the region.
Now, you mentioned a very important thing there, patriotic. Now, when you sit now and look back at the current state of cricket, let's say cricket, because our Trinidad team is not doing all that well, neither the West Indies team. Yeah. Coming from an era where, as you said, where you were competitive, you were patriotic, how did that make you feel? Well, we blame selectors, we blame the board, we blame players. But who do you think, or what do you think is the reason for our decline, if we so to speak, right now?
Well, it's a combination of things. I don't think that we in the Caribbean, because of the third world mentality, we do the analytical research on West Indies cricket. I did a speech in Grenada a couple of months ago, in fact, February last year, and I mentioned to them that we need to do research. We seem to criticize each other, we seem to blame each other, but we don't focus on why we were so good. We were the most dominant team for 16 years. Yeah. The most dominant, not just cricket team, but the most dominant sporting team in the history of professional sport. We were the most, let me repeat that because a lot of people don't know that, and we cannot seem to exalt ourselves. We embrace some myths too. We embrace the myth that it was natural talent. We embrace the myth that Dennis Waite was the one that gave us the physical strength. We embraced the myth, a huge myth, that county cricket was the reason for why we were so dominant. I think that it's a combination of things that we need to analyze properly. I've done my own personal research. The school system that we had at the primary school level gave us the foundation to think a certain way. We look at, obviously...
Okay, we need to take a break. Hold that thought, we'll be right back.
Okay, no problem.
Viewers, we'll be right back, and we're talking to former Trinidad and Tobago and West Indies fast bowler Tony Gray. We're talking cricket. We'll be right back after the short break. You're now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
All the time we played together, I've always been the decoy. Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9.
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua De Matos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Unfortunately,
Hey, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh, what's that? Welcome to this edition of The Interview. And as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shakir.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard on ACTN. Before the break, Tony, we were talking about some of the reasons you hear why, our cricket has declined, both locally and, regionally.
Yeah, I was saying that, it's important to understand we must do the research, right? I feel that there has been a deletion of a lot of things that used to work. Because we were not conscious of why we were successful, we allowed them to be taken away from, first of all, our game.
Mm-hmm.
Society is indicative of what's going on in sport and vice versa. Sport is indicative of what's going on in society. So when we talk about the lack of patriotism, we have to understand that society now is about egocentric and selfish values. But besides that, if you look back at the past, at primary school level, we had the physical foundation of all the games that we used to play. So we used to play games that give us the physicality, the physical strength and endurance. And then we had the critical thinking ability, right? Because those games were strategic. So exactly what you want at the under 12 level is exactly what occurred. After that, and because we went through a process that is called the logical sequential path to progress.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we played a lot of different games. If you research on the individuals that played for the West Indies team and Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica and Barbados, they would have played different sports, right? So when we talk about athleticism is gained by not just having the genetical gifts, but the system that you go through as a child, as a teenager, and so on. So we had players playing different types of games. Viv Richards played football. Viv Richards boxed also, all right? And then played cricket, obviously. Michael Olin was a track athlete, high jumper too. Curtly Ambrose played basketball. And you could go on and on. Brian Lara played table tennis. He also played soccer, football. So these guys went through what I call a logical sequential path. And then after that, they represented the national teams and clubs in the country before that. Harvard Cricket Club, where Brian Lara came from, was absolutely terrific at developing talent, developing skill, and developing discipline. And then he went to Queen's Park at the right time. Joey Carew, the late Joey Carew was there. That gave him an explosion of the tactical part of the game. And then going on to county cricket. People talk about county cricket as the main factor. It was the ideal situation in that we played 19 games yearly in different playing conditions, which included cold climatic conditions, and then against some of the best cricketers in the world.
Okay.
So exactly what you want to prepare your mind, your body, your skill was given to us by county cricket, right? And because it was also compensatory not having those climatic conditions in the Caribbean to simulate. So we were the complete cricketers and the best prepared sportsmen of our generation. Now, people will say, well, I don't have the research on other sports people, but I am telling you, to have a dominant team for over 16 years, it had to be the best prepared team in world sport. So when people talk about one or two factors, it's a combination of things that we now need to bring back into our system through research and to try to simulate so that we get the performances again.
How do we do that? Because most of our young sportsmen and women, whatever sport that they play, that is what they play.
Yeah.
Right? Other sports, they will engage, but on their phone, not physically. So how do we get that back into the cricket and to get, you know, our present crop of cricketers, you know, to be competitive and to have that mental ability? Because sometimes we see in matches where we lose a game because of the mental side. Last ball, we make a rash shot, you know, on these things. We don't think properly. How do you, Tony Gray, see us getting back that into the sport?
Well, all right. Let me just make a suggestion. It has to be a collective approach, and it cannot be isolated. So UTT, for example, has formulated a program now where we are talking to the people of influence at the primary school level, the secondary school level, the club level, and then the national level. I have a meeting tomorrow at the National Cricket Center with these types of people, the president of the primary school, the president of the secondary school, the national coaches, Kumar Rampat, who is the
Rampat coaching academy.
That's right, but he's also attached to West Indies. He's the territorial, our country's development officer when it comes to coaching and developing young players, and he's doing a fantastic job. So we have a meeting tomorrow, and that's the fourth meeting that we're going to have. And that is to take us through the process from the playground to the international arena. Because that is how we have to do it. We cannot do things in isolation. Because I am now at UTT. I am now trying to help the scholarship people to go on to the national teams. In cricket, for example, we've had 30 national players at different age group levels. So it cannot be done in isolation. We have to get everybody involved and for them to do their part right. But it has to be re-education of people because it's a different era we're dealing with, and further education because sport changes. Now, it is not just cricket alone at UTT. It is all the different sports that we are trying to encourage people to be a part of in a strategic, collective, developmental way.
Now, you said that you're going to have meetings and you talk about the primary school level, but that's going to take a little while before it really gets into the psyche. But presently, right now, with the crop of players that we have, the young ones, you know, who sometimes feel that the older ones can't dictate to them or tell them, you know, certain things. No, that happens in sports. You know, they don't take advice. We're going into a World Cup, you know, since next year. Yeah, World Cup next year. We have some series coming up. But we are not performing as what we would like to see. Now, there is no team that's going to stay on top of the game for 99 years. We know that. But if you're losing, you're going to lose going down fighting or showing that commitment. But we sometimes we don't see that. We don't see that. And I think that is what have the cricket supporters so angry, because we expect you to win, you expect you to lose. But if you're losing, I mean, come on, let's see some guts in there. How do you change the crop that we have now that we can go? Because some of these guys on the West Indies, some on the Trinidad team, they are still young, so they have some years still representing the country, right? How do you get them to change that mindset?
Well, I think that, you know, we constantly talk about remedial work, but we talk about remedial work when it pertains to the skill, all right? But we have to talk about remedial work when it pertains to the psyche of our players. I keep on saying, and I mentioned it just now, that Brazil football has a lot to do with their culture. Samba, the way they move and that sort of thing. And Brazil has suffered to a certain degree. They're second in the world now, but they've suffered to a certain degree because they have embraced another culture, European type football. So we have to understand our culture and what happens to our culture as it pertains to sport. Trinidad and Tobago team, for example, our culture is not process-oriented. It is about quick fixes. So we have to start changing the culture of Trinidad and Tobago by remedial work, mental remedial work. So we have to get our players earlier. The Guyanese culture is more suited and more aligned with the 4-day cricket. because they are process-oriented and because they are a little bit more committed because of their economic situation. So they will initially have an advantage in a 4-day game. We will initially have an advantage in a T20 game because we are creative, we're expressive, we're jovial in the way we go about things, right? So it takes a lot more work to coach a team in the 4-day scenario from Trinidad and Tobago, as it would take a lot more work for Guyana to coach a T20 team.
But if we go back to Viv and them days, when the same players used to play 50 overs and play test cricket.
Yeah. But think about it. Viv and them era, the parents were authoritative, dictatorial, right? His father was a prison officer. That's why I said about analytical research, not just systemic research, but individual research, right? So Viv had that type of robust attitude that he needed a change somewhat too when you had an influx of people coming from a different type of society. So that's what leadership is about. But Viv and Desmond Haynes and Larry Gomes, it came from an era where parents were real parents, dictatorial, strict, where teachers were not just teachers of academic, but teachers of life. So mentorship was there, and men, it had a lot of men as teachers. So young boys had one way to go, just straight. So that was the advantage of our players coming from that type of society then. It's not the same now. We have to do more work because there's a lot of miseducation in this society through technology and through other things.
I'm going to put you on the spot now.
Feel free.
We went through the qualifying round for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And we didn't look good. I mean, yes, we made it, right? But we were beaten twice by Afghanistan, a country who a West Indian started coaching, who really brought to the forefront of cricket. That's Greenwich, right? And they have not had the years of experience as what the West Indies had over all these years. Where do you see our downfall is right now? Because we struggle to make the qualifying round with the weaker nations. We have the stronger nations to come next year. How do you see us stepping up our game?
Well, you have to understand that we lost twice in the qualifying rounds of the tournament, but once before it started, in the sense that we played Afghanistan in a practice game. So we lost to them 3 times.
Okay.
Right.
I didn't want to rub it in that deep.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that we had a good tournament except for one team. So we had to look and say, well, why we lost to Afghanistan that badly? Because in the first practice, and the only practice game we had, we made 111 runs.
Yeah.
Then the game, the Super Sixes game, we made 195 runs. And then I think in the final that we played them, we made just 205 or something like that. So we had a bad run against Afghanistan, mainly because of the ineptness and the inability to play top-class spinners. Now, if you look at our regional tournament, the spinners are getting the wickets. In 10, of the top bowlers, probably 8 or 9 are spinners. So we are not playing our spinners properly. And that's because our batsmen do not have the skill, do not have the temperament, and do not have the game awareness to play against our spinners.
But how do we get that?
So we have to coach them differently, right? To prepare for a tournament like that, and knowing what we know, because we had a prelude, which is the qualifying tournament, we have an insight to know how to go about, coaching our batsmen. But we have to be compensatory because our spinners don't turn the ball like those guys. They don't fly the ball like those guys. We're losing our top-class spinners because of T20 factor. In clubs, we play a lot of T20. In schools, they play in T20. And so from a young age, all spinners have been taught to bowl flat. So if we cannot be combative to spinners here in the region, then when we expose to top-class spinners, we will struggle. So it's about coaching them differently. Movement towards the ball to combat the ball. We have to look at the batsmen who were efficient at spin. Brian Lara. Everybody says, well, that's natural talent, God-given talent. Maybe. But maybe we have to look at his example of how he played spin and try to have batsmen batting that way. Movement towards the ball, employing a sweep shot, pushing back the spinners so that they can bowl flat and shorter, that kind of thing. But we don't have the confidence and we don't have the skill yet.
Do you see now the need from what you are saying here is that we start bringing in guys like yourself and Lara and all these other guys? Because Simmons took Ireland to where they are today, right? Otis Gibson went back to England. They're doing pretty well. I think they're #1 right now, right?
No, in what? Well, England is not #1 in tests.
In some, I think, T10T or 50 overs. What is this thing? Subject correction. Yeah. Then we have Walsh now is down at he's outside Bangladesh, yeah. Right? But we are bringing coaches from Australia, you know. Now, I have no problem with a coach because a coach could be from any country. Once he's qualified, he has the option of giving the job. Mm-hmm. But our culture is different. Would it be different to have, wise in fact, to have a coach who knows our culture? You know, we have from the Lloyds, the Richards, the Khan, we have all these top successful things, cricketers, but we don't see them lecturing to our cricketers. You know, when there's a camp, you know, we, as you said, Lara, good in spin, he's supposed to be talking to the bowlers, giving them his knowledge, his experience, how to do it.
Yeah, I think that you have to be careful with that. A lot of people think that, because you were a past great player, you can make a good coach or that sort of thing. That is a misconception.
No, not necessarily a coach, but
a mentor.
Yeah, a mentor. Right. Yeah,
master classes.
Yes,
you can organize master classes.
Lara, for instance.
And you're right. That's right. But you have to be strategic with that, because if you bring a person that played international cricket and did well as a cricketer, and he doesn't have the acumen and the education behind him to coach, you can have the reverse effect or the adverse effect. So you have to be very careful. You can bring a coach who is a foreigner, who can be efficient, but you have to research on the background of the coach and to see if he fits into your cricketing culture. That's an important factor. If he doesn't, then you have to have people around him that understand the intricacies of your culture and the demeanors of the people that you're going to coach.
Okay. We have to take a break, but when we come back, I want you to answer me this. We had Otis Gibson, Phil Simmons. Now we have Stuart Law. But our performance, basically, is around the same level. Do you think it's the coach or the mentality of the players? We'll answer that when we come back. Whereas we take a short break, we'll be right back.
You're now changing your question.
What I would say, Steve, is this.
My first question was, and roll back that tape.
I made my debut for Crystal Palace against Tottenham Hotspur.
My responsibility was to get the ball and make things happen offensively.
In all the time we played together, I've always been the decoy. Welcome to Field of Dreams on ACTN. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACT, and it's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening between the hours of 8 and 9. What
Welcome to the new season of Football 101. I am your host, Joshua Matos.
Well, it's time for your weekly football news update. I love you, Messi.
Unfortunately, kiss the badge, kiss the badge. Oh. What's that?
Welcome to this edition of The Interview, and as you can see, I'm not alone on the set. I have Marcus, a Liverpool fan, and I have Shakir.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard on ACTN. We have former Trinidad and Tobago and West Indies fast bowler with us, Tony Gray, and I have him on the hot seat. Before the break, I wanted to answer this question. We had a number of coaches from Simmons to, we have Stuart Law now, we have Otis Gibson. But our performance is the same. Who do you think, or where do you see the problem lie? Is it with the coaches, or is it with the mentality of the players? They are not committed as the past era of players?
I think that when you analyzing coaches, you have to analyze the system that you have. If the system that you have is not strong enough, then you have to be patient with the progress of players. The development of players in all aspects of development, physical development, technical development, psychological development, the mentality that you want. So a combination of things. We talk about our Caribbean coaches. They've all been winning coaches. Gus Logie was a winning coach. Otis Gibson was a winning coach. Philip Simmons was a winning coach. With Philip Simmons, it's a good test case to look at carefully because he went to Zimbabwe in a tumultuous situation. Zimbabwe cricket was in real turmoil. There was infighting. There was legal situations that Simmons had to deal with. He went to Ireland and had full autonomy over that cricketing culture. So I think that when he came back to the West Indies, a lot of changes have occurred over the years that he had to adjust to again. And anybody coming into this situation where this, West Indies cricket is concerned, had to be patient. And I don't think that he had that level of patience as yet. But I think that he was a very good coach, and he's proven to be that way. Now, Simmons is a motivator. So each coach has their strengths and weaknesses. Simmons is a motivator. Simmons gets the best out of players. And if he was there for a while, you probably would have seen the upward mobility of the West Indies team. Gus Logie did a fantastic job. Otis Gibson did brilliantly. So we have the quality and the level of coaching in the Caribbean, all level 3. Otis Gibson is level 4, which is the highest level of coaching in the world. So we have the qualifications. We have guys who mean well. They have that intrinsic patriotic quality that they want to see West Indies cricket in the upward movement again. But I think that there needs to be patience, and there needs to have a system that is aligned with going forward. But there needs to be a change in the mentality of people. I also call for administrative education, because sport at this level is an intricate, complicated thing. West Indies cricket is the most complicated system in the world.
For real.
So if you don't understand that from the start, anybody will be employed in any portfolio, and that will be a problem. It will be problematic because it is complicated. So if you have things like people management, sportsmen are different. They have egos to protect, and you cannot disintegrate ego when they have to go on the field with ego, right? So Viv Richards had it, Michael Olin had it, and you watch the players in the years of dominance, they had forthright opportunities. And so we cannot subdue it just like that. We cannot be dictatorial. So administrators have to learn how to be compromising, but not too lenient on players, because players will take advantage. So it has to be a give and take approach to helping players to understand how to be patriotic, how to be committed, but also how to be respectful of the administrators.
How do you see us performing or coming out of the 2019 World Cup? And who are some of the players that you currently that are not connected to the West Indies team that you feel could create an impact and needed, on the team?
Well, we have to have some strike bowlers. We can't go into a situation where we are ninth in the 50 over standing and expect to beat the bigger teams without impact players. Chris Gayle is an impact player. At the moment, looking at the qualifying tournament, the only impact player that we had was Chris Gayle. A lot of people think that he should not make it to the World Cup. I think that
he's too old.
No, 38 is not too old. He has the experience. He brings a lot to the table. He is the only intimidatory factor that we have on the West Indies team. We don't have the likes of the late Malcolm Marshall, Michael Olin, Viv Richards again, right? So we have to carry Chris Gayle because he's played for about 22 international teams, 22 teams. So he's got loads and loads of experience. The other thing that we have to have an impact in is the bowling part of it. We have to have bowlers who can take early wicket. We have to have the fast bowlers. Shannon Gabriel, if he could only bowl straight consistently, he could be a huge factor. In England, the ball will move around a bit, but there are 2 new balls in the 50-over game now. So the ball lasts longer. So that's why I say seam bowling had to be a factor. But Sunil Narayan is a key if we can get him to play for the West Indies team. And we have to sit down with these players and talk to them and try to reason with them and get them on the West Indies team.
We just have about 10 minutes remaining. Just see when time goes by so quickly when you're having fun. Tony Gray, if you had to relive your career playing cricket, would you have made any changes or would you do the same thing same way?
No, I think that I've been honest with the people of the Caribbean. I pulled out of a game in 1987 at the Queen's Park Oval because of a hip injury. It was proven to be true. I went to Surrey after and had to relax for a couple of months because of the pain. So I'm truly patriotic. I give my very best. 12 years representing my country on those slow tracks, slow pitches, says a lot. I'm now giving back at UTT for the last 10 years. I've worked in the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs for 14 years. I did commentary, attached to the Trinidad and Tobago cricket now as a selector. I've coached the national under-19 team for 9 years. And brought not just victory, but I think that a mentality with the likes of Dwayne Bravo and people like Ravi Rampal of looking for success. So I think that I've given enough to Trinidad and Tobago's cricket, but I still have to give more because the richest place in the world right now is the cemetery.
Exactly. Yes,
where a lot of people die with the wisdom and the knowledge that God has given us. Yeah. And, when you look at West Indies cricket, I forget to mention that, to me, I thought it was the divine intervention because it is the glue of the Caribbean. Some people think that it's the only unifying force. I think that CARICOM will have something to say about it. I think it's the most potent unifying force, but it's much more than that. Because I don't believe that people could quantify what one iconic figure in Brian Lara has done for the Caribbean. We are getting people to do interim jobs. We are bringing people to this country, U.S. money being spent. So I think that God has given us West Indies cricket, that we need to recognize what has happened. And we need to, take in the education that is there. Use the technology in the right way. Don't overuse it because we need to look at the humanistic side of things. Because technology has perhaps destroyed it to a certain degree. So we need to be thoughtful about how do we use sport in the country as a vehicle for national development. My good friend Clayton Morris is doing a wonderful job in the prisons. And also, if we use sport in the right way, then we can have sport tourism, right? And that can, lend assistance to the true development of our country. In addition to that, all the adverse problems that we have and the crime and that sort of thing will be alleviated if we use sport in the right way. So sport can be a strong vehicle for national development. And, you look at the health sector. If we have a stronger nation, a healthier nation, it would alleviate a lot of the problems that we see in the health sector.
Any regret?
No, I mean, life is life, You might make some mistakes. I am not infallible in any way. I'm not perfect. But life is life. You have to get on with life and learn from your past. Some people say I should have played a lot more. I tell young players about my stats. I enjoy looking at my stats because I perform well in the little time I had with the West Indies team. And, I enjoy it because I represented the people of the West Indies. So my thing is no regrets, but I had things to learn from, and I'm a better human being because of it.
One thing that stands out in your memory during your career playing cricket, could be for Trinidad or for the West Indies team?
One thing that stood out is when I told the authorities that I was injured and I would have bowled one delivery in that game against Pakistan. And I said no more. I won't go out there and be dishonest with the people of the region. That's how I think.
What legacy would you like to leave at the end of when everything is said and done?
That I played sport with the heart and determination that people should play sport with. They should really contribute to the country. They should understand that God has given them the talent. I had the talent from God. There's no way in my mind that I will, defer from that fact. And, we should play sport to give to our country something special, right? Everything else will be added on. You will get money, you will get a house and that sort of thing if you play sport the right way and believe in yourself. So believe in yourself as a human being. And, think in the right way and don't think in a negative way.
We don't have much time, but could you mention a couple of the people who were instrumental in your career in the sport?
My father. My father, he's now 84 years old.
Still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He's now 84 years old. And, I've always told him thanks very much, and I can see now the wisdom that he's passed on to me. He was very adamant about being supportive of me. I said I wanted to play for the West Indies team. The following day, a bag of gears, and I'm the only boy. So he used to be there with me all the time. The late Kenny Thomas, my football coach, St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive. Osmond Dongner, the principal of St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive.
Still around.
He's still around, yes. I saw him the other day. Mickey Stewart, Alex Stewart at Surrey Cricket Club, Jeff Arnold, the former England medium fast bowler at Surrey Cricket Club. People, the coaches at the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs, and Lenny Guy, Gally Cummins, the people now, the coaches now at UTT, they're wonderful people who are, have a lot of knowledge that are committed to the progress of sport and the country. So, people like Alina Edwards, table tennis champion. Yeah. You have Bridget Adams, netball. Clayton Morris, as I mentioned, Lester Sooner, wonderful guy. So these people have influence over me, and I learn from them a lot.
Any closing remarks you would like to try to make before we wrap?
Yeah, just to, try to understand that sport is so very important. It is not just recreation. It is important for the country. With the receding commodities that we have in oil and gas, it could recede at any time. We don't have to have it in the future. We have to digress from it, and we have to use sport as a vehicle for national development. So I think that we have to look at sport differently, and we have to try to use sport in the right way. Look at the foreign countries, learn from them the way they use sport, and cultivate a sporting culture. Children need to play sport in primary school. The educational system has to change. It cannot be about clone a clone educational system. It has to be comprehensive. Allow the children to play. Allow them to socialize through sport. Allow them to get healthy, right? Because the nation needs healthy people. So we have to change the mindset about sport in the country. Once we do that, we can have a beautiful country again and less crime.
Thank you very much, Tony Gray.
You're welcome.
All the best, and keep on doing what you're doing at UTT and maintain all those who will come in contact with you.
Thank you.
Because we have come to the end of another edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. We were talking cricket. We were talking to Tony Gray, former Trinidad and Tobago and West Indies fast bowler. For those of you who don't know who Tony Gray was, especially young ones, you will have an idea now. And that is what we try to do. And, you know, for too long, our past sportsmen and women, after their career in the sport has ended, they just seem to fade away. Some go into the wilderness, some come back and give back to society, but not much is mentioned of them. So the younger ones coming up don't know our heroes. Maybe that's why they're choosing the wrong heroes. So again, if you miss any part of this program, there's a repeat tomorrow at 1 p.m. We hope that you truly enjoy this segment. Join us next week, same channel, same time. Do have a blessed week ahead. Remember, this is Scoreboard on ACTN.